is the Oddball Show, a podcasting collaboration with Flatline Productions and Oddball Magazine.
There is no new violence, only selective silence. Welcome, welcome aboard the Oddball ship. Before we get going tonight, we'll get into intros in just a second. Before we get going tonight, I really need to say that all of our hearts here at the show go out to those touched by the tragedy at Pulse in Orlando this weekend. And it's kind of hard to say that big enough, you know, it seems like a platitude, but we'll talk more a little later in the show about some of the issues that surfaced during this kind of mass violence again and again. But this one has certainly hit each of us here at the show on a real personal level. So to anyone that knows anybody in Orlando, or really anybody touched by this in any way, our hearts go out. So, all right. My name is Prof, and I'll be your cartographer for this podcasting expedition. I represent the hip-hop entity known as Flatline Productions, and with me are my collaborators, creator and editor-in-chief of Oddball Magazine, Mr. Jason Wright.
Yes, I'm excited to be on this show tonight with Louis M. Excited to be with everyone from the Oddball crew tonight. This is going to be a fun show.
Our other leg from Oddball will be joining us momentarily, but also with us, my partner in Lime, co-CEO and artist of Flatline Productions, Scholar, a.k.a. Mr. Ivan De Jesus. Please say hello.
Yo, what's going on, people?
Greetings, greetings. Oh, and actually,
welcome.
We are joined, as we speak, by host of the Stone Soup Open Mic every Monday night in Cambridge, and Jesus Poetry aficionado, Mr. Chad Parento.
Yeah, Chad
who just dropped off.
Oh, wait. Well, okay. You know, it's the internet. It's fun with technology. He'll be back in a moment.
And I will introduce him. But,
all right. So let's continue around the table. Our guest tonight, in equal parts poet and hip-hop artist. His new album, That New Violence, dropped in April, which you can find at Bandcamp, and you really should. We'll obviously post that link up in a few as part of our partners link section, and we'll talk more about it throughout the night. And as a member of the poetry collective known as Flatline Poetry, his poetic style is on live display all throughout the Boston area, and that should also be on your radar. Please give a warm Oddball Show welcome to Mr. Louis M.
Yo, yo, yo.
Oh
my goodness, the applause is too much.
We worked really hard on it. Thanks very much for being here, man. We really do appreciate your time.
Well, thank y'all for having me, man. It's an honor.
We're looking forward to a really a great conversation here tonight. We have a lot to talk about. I know that Jason is chomping at the bit. So I'll just kick off with a question and kind of steer it after that. But Jason, I know, is just dying to. I'm not even going to waste time. Go ahead, Jason. What's up, buddy?
I mean, I'm excited to have Louis M. on the program. Me and Louis have known each other since way back to the original Oddball JT issue 4 with our friend and Oddball artist Rob Martin. We've been buds for a long time, so it's really good to have Louis on the program. Louis, do you remember collaborating with us with the Love Letter Tango and Oddball Magazine, like in what?
I do. That was because I wrote that and submitted it to y'all to be included in Oddball. That was a while ago. That was a couple of years ago, right?
That was like 5 years ago, man. We've known each other for a long time.
Yeah.
That was before Oddball was really even a thing, and I mean, you supported me back then, and now, you know, where we are and where you are, it's just kind of a beautiful thing, you know?
Yeah, man, it's the cycle of life, man.
So, yeah, it looks like we got Chad. Yo, Chad, you there? Chad's not here still, Louis.
It would be such a funnier thing so there's a podcast. You can catch our podcast on SoundCloud and iTunes. We'll talk about that in just a moment. But it also broadcasts through YouTube, so you can see on the bottom of the YouTube feed as Chad comes in and out every 15 seconds. His head pops up and drops back down, and pops back up and drops back down, like a whammy on Press Your Luck.
The Wi-Fi connection is
Praise God.
But Louis, I really want to ask you, as a hip hop artist and a poet, because we were actually, let me back up, we were introduced to Flatline at the very beginning of our collaboration with Oddball Magazine. One of the first nights we did featured, I don't know if it was several, no, it was only one. It was
It was Kylie.
It was Kylie. That's right. It was
Oh,
Kylie.
Kaylee?
Kaylee.
Yeah.
She did an awesome night, and it was actually at the old Out of the Blue Gallery right before they moved.
Yeah.
Tight little hot spot. I think it was like August, so we shot the first video that we were collaborating together. So that's when I first got introduced to your group, which is pretty awesome. I want to talk about that history. But as a poet and a hip hop artist, when you're writing something, is there like, do they go in two piles, or is it not quite so much?
I would say they go into different piles in terms of, intent and difficulty. I feel like I approach my poetry very different from how I approach my rap music. Because with rap, I kind of allow myself to be a little bit more free and loose to explore my concept, explore my ideas thoroughly. Whereas with poetry, I usually go in with a very specific idea and a very specific mode of thinking, and try my best to explore whatever concept I'm working on as fully as possible. So in that way, I allow myself the freedom to do more with rap because in some ways, rap can be, sometimes a bit more difficult. There's a lot more things to think about when you write a rap song. You're thinking about, what kind of art you're taking the listener on. You're thinking about, how you're approaching your subject matter. You're thinking about how it sounds, the meter, does it flow? Is there too many words in this line? Is there too few words in this line? You're thinking about the beat, how you ride on the beat. There's so many other variables to consider that that most of the time just simply isn't there when you do poetry.
Yeah, man. I gotta say, if you haven't heard this album yet, it's called That New Violence. We'll get into a little more about how long it took for you to make this, how many samples are involved in this album, how dope this album sounds, and how I'm gonna get it in my car. I'm gonna be bumping it down the street in my car. You can get it on Bandcamp right now, lewism.bandcamp.com, right? Is that right?
That is correct.
Yeah. And you gotta check this out if you haven't heard it yet. But I don't know. Hey, Chad.
How are you?
There he is. Chad's here.
Yeah, we have a Chad. He's no longer here.
Warning to everyone who upgrades to Windows 10. Good God. My volume, my speakers have been messed up since then. And I thought everything was clear until I joined Google Hangouts, and it was just like one more thing for me to figure out. All that, and I still can't play DVDs. I berate you guys for using the crazy sound effects, but not this time.
How are you, Mr. Chadwick? How are you?
Doing very well, and hello, Lewis. It's good to see you again.
Hey,
Or
man,
see your face.
Curious.
Well, I did both see and hear you during the Elephant reading. The Elephant is a local zine poet put out by Jamelia Van Dyke, and we had the party for that in Jamaica Plain a few weeks ago, and Lewis was one of the key performers who got the crowd going with excerpts from his album. And I was impressed, mightily impressed, I have to say.
Wait, did you perform? You performed like a cappella, or you actually just performed live?
I did. Yeah, I did. I performed over my production. So.
All right, cool. Yeah.
That was
Awesome.
Yeah.
I would love to have seen that. Yeah. The beats are freaking sick on that album. I know we're gonna play a little bit of it for the audience in a little bit.
Have you had a more formal release party for it, Lewis?
I did. Actually, a few days before it came out, I had an album release show that featured a bunch of my favorite local MCs who I really respect, people like Oompa, Gecko Spot, my homeboy Grip, and this other artist, Hurricane, who is awesome. Got the place so live. It was so insane. It was really cool. But yeah, man, I had that show, and I've been thinking about seeing where else we could take this, seeing if there's, more shows that we can do, if we can package that show, because it was a really awesome night of hip hop, good vibes all around. See if we could package that show and take it around. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, I hope you make Stone Soup one of your locations, man, because I told you before during that show that we had to during that release party that we had to the Elephant Zine release party that we had to get you back to Stone Soup. We haven't seen you since that period of like 2014, was it, where we featured Flatline Poetry.
Yeah, and you know what? The space that y'all got now is so much better made for live music performances like that. That yeah, I'd be definitely interested in coming back to do a couple shows.
Yeah, we're gonna get you out of the Blue Art Gallery. Shout out to Hanson and Tom Simpson. Definitely.
Now in its new location, 541 Massachusetts Avenue. Oh God, I almost used the Prospect as street. I don't think there's even a 541 Prospect Street.
Oh, well, there's that new place that took over out of the Blue Art Gallery. I don't remember what it's called, but
it's like a specialty souvenir store. I don't know what it is, but yeah, the 106 Prospect Street is no more. It's 541 in Massachusetts proper, Cambridge, Massachusetts, Central Square proper, 541 Mass Ave, and there's going to be a fundraiser this weekend, so check out Out of the Blue regarding that, and hopefully check out stonesoupoetry.blogspot.com for Lewis's future date, which we should iron out in the next couple of days.
Oh yeah, definitely.
We also got to mention this Saturday, today's the 14th, this Saturday, me, Chad Parenzo, and Lucci, who's a good friend of the Oddball Show and an awesome former Boston poet. We're all going to be at the Starbucks in Harvard Square from 1:30 to 2:30. We got the Oddball Poetry Hour. Lewis, I hope you can bring some beats. That would just really light up those coffee drinkers, man.
No, maybe. That's something that I'm thinking about, but at the same time, people drinking a venti mocha double shot latte, whatever bullshit. Sometimes what they mostly want to do is just enjoy their coffee, and I'm glad to go there and maybe do some hip hop to disrupt their day.
Chad likes to get in their face.
That's something they're doing last time too.
It's awesome.
I got a little bit too much in their face last time.
It was great. I thought you were on a roll, man.
Unfortunately, so did the baristas who I ended up ribbing during my set.
We were told we can't come back if we have a show like the one Chad did. But we're gonna
brought down the house around the coffee drinkers in Harvard Square.
We're gonna do it anyway.
This is the first time. This is the closest I've ever come to being labeled a band act. I just want you to know that.
Or a badass.
Maybe a little bit of both.
Yeah, but this Saturday it's gonna be dope. We're gonna have some fun. So
let's steer it back this way. I know that we do want to get to playing one of his tracks. I know that you have one picked out in mind. Here's what I wanted to ask, Lewis. So I listened to your album on Bandcamp, which is obviously a great place to put your album. It seems like you have 60 releases up there. Is that true?
There is so much stuff. It's it's funny because back in the day when I first started making beats.
Yeah.
I just every time I made a new beat, I would just be like, yeah, and then I put it on Bandcamp. There was no SoundCloud at the time when I started making beats.
Right.
So So some of those are, just loosies that I haven't really, managed to do anything with. And then I started, thinking about putting together these, instrumental tapestries, like sort of, like sort of an instrumental album that has like a concept, and you go in, listen to it, and it's supposed to be like an entire experience. So that's when I started releasing fuller, longer projects, and then someone was like, hey, you should rap, and then I was like, you know what, I probably should, and then I started recording myself and started putting out albums. Don't listen to that first one though. That first one's shit. The second one and the third one are pretty. Well, I'm really proud of this last one. The one previous to this one was pretty good. Don't listen to that first one. That first one was terrible.
So what's the title of the first one?
I'm not going to tell you. What's the title of the first
one? We're talking about it. That's it.
Why the hell do you have it on Bandcamp then? Still,
it's because of the fact.
That's just tantalizing.
It's because of the fact that it was something I was proud of when I first made it, and time hasn't really making more shit hasn't really been kind to that album. So I'm sure some of my fans will go and listen to that and still like it. But I don't like it mainly because I made it, and if I feel like I'm not progressing far enough in my project, then it's not good. And in that, it was like the first one, and it was like me cutting my teeth on everything that I sort of learned to figure out. And that's not just including the music. That's included mixing and mastering and lyric writing and all that shit. That's all shit that I didn't really have like a full handle on. Because I'm coming from the poetry world, and coming from the poetry world into rap is not that much of a seamless transition. And that album is just that transition, and it's like the training montage and like a Rocky movie. That album.
That's pretty good.
Wood and stuff.
Yeah.
Doing push-ups with. I don't know. What does he do? You're talking about Rocky 4, right? Talking about Rocky 4 with the snow and he's chopping.
Oh, yeah.
It's like every Rocky movie.
That's all of them, man.
Rocky 4 in Russia. He was in Russia or something.
Oh, I'm thinking about the one with Mr. T.
Oh, Rocky 2, 3.
Rocky 3.
Yeah, that's 3.
Yeah.
You're out of the Rocky Club, Jason. You are so out of the Rocky Club.
Isn't that the same one with he fights Chad Printo?
And Godzilla.
Yeah.
And Hulk Hogan. That's the one where he fights Hulk Hogan at the beginning of the movie.
How was Hulk Hogan that bald at he was 21 and he was already that bald?
Yeah.
I'm not saying Hulk Hogan will come back and crush me.
He was pretty old back then, still. I can't remember a time where he wasn't old to me.
Rocky 5 was when Rocky took on Apollo Creed, who got his arm cut off by Predator.
Rocky 5 was when he fought some guy named Tommy in a backyard alley. I remember that one. That was Rocky 5, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that was terrible.
It was the one where. What was the one where Rocky fought the T-1000 from Terminator?
Oh, man. How do we get on that subject?
I don't know. I was the one that mentioned Rocky.
Yeah, I threw out that whole conversation. We were talking about that new violence, and then I went back about 20 years to Rocky.
Speaking of that new violence.
Yeah.
I think it's actually a great time to cue up a track. Which one were you thinking about playing?
Louis, I want to play The Fun and Funeral.
That's the one that's actually the first track I finished for the album. And it still remains as, one of my favorites on the project.
Oh, good, then.
Yeah.
Then we are in unison. I'm going to play The Fun and Funeral. This is That New Violence. The song is The Fun and Funeral. Check it out. Tell me if you can hear that.
Okay. When I die, I want my funeral DJ by frame. Lower my casket for activated truck machines. Current that kicks them up. That's my eulogy is right. You swear. You might forget a niggas that the only Bible that is right is the one policeman for a gun. When I put it up, I prayed. All them niggas that was gray. All them niggas that was shooting. It's alright though. Silver linings and all that. Maybe should be spiteful. Besides, I was sick of paying bills of paying rent. They take the trains to go to work and go home. They go to sleep and wake up. They take the shit to feel like shit for a peak in the cycle. So what kind of world would I have? If I'm living that like no. But think about the Trayvons and Mike Browns. They were martyred after being murdered. Celebrities unheard of it. This my social gravity running down my mentality. Like lighter than shit. Keep us in up to the heavens. It's with me. It's a new phenomenon. Brewing in response to the apathy and nonchalant. It's a second anger. Come on, damn time. I have to say that shit twice. Cause it's about damn time. That's for me. Actually, Dion and the Grammy winning battle of the fire. One guy that all the house lines were crying. I struggle at my body like the DJ scratching. Straight up rolling in the furnace. Highly flammable shit. You should burn this down. No hand holding for rebels. Stay hard, niggas never settle. I'ma show you how. Use your rage and your power. This place is ours. Tear the world's punches. Burn it all down. Burn it all down. Burn it all down. Burn it all down. When I die, I want my headstone to be a game of
Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah.
Fucking amazing. Oh man.
I couldn't tell if we got to it yet, but one of my favorite lines on that, I think it's Fun and Funeral. If anything I've ever written mattered, you tell them to make Rorschach patterns out of my blood splatter.
Yeah, that was a gnarly line.
Dope.
Hey, so I mean, you're talking about I Want My Funeral DJ by Preem. You're obviously talking about Primo, right?
Oh yeah, DJ Premier.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. So I hear Premier on that track. I hear a lot of Premier. What are some other those influences on this album? I mean, I'm hearing Premier. I'm hearing Ninth. I'm hearing a little bit of Binary Star. I'm hearing a lot of stuff on that.
Yeah, there's a lot of shit. I mean, like in terms of beats, you know, there is probably no other producer that has influenced me more than Primo. You know, from the time that I, you know, first heard Moment of Truth while playing fucking Dave Merrill freestyle BMX, you know, that was like, you know, like a moment for me where I've never heard hip hop like that, and you know, that got me to seeking out all of the Gangstar shit. Actually, Gangstar is a very big influence on me and my art in general. Guru is a big, you know, influence on me in terms of, you know, lyric writing. But in terms of this particular project, Primo's one. I'd say like an even bigger influence on this particular project was Alchemist.
Alchemist. All right.
Alchemist is a guy that I really, you know, love his beats because of the fact that he picks out, you know, really weird, sort of atonal shit, you know, like sort of like what RZA was doing for ODB back in the 90s, you know, like this sort of like, you know, almost, you know, avant-garde, you know, type of production. So he was like one guy that I started, you know, really listening to while making this because his beats are just like the way he chooses samples, the way he finds, you know, really obscure shit is just one of those things where I wanted to find, you know, wanted to breach outside of, you know, just, you know, soul records and, you know, R&B shit from the 70s or the 60s and really go out there, you know, find, you know, just like old Italian film soundtracks from the 60s or, you know, Turkish rock or other shit. Like, just try and branch out as much as I possibly could.
Yeah, you know, I can hear some, you know, you just said something about some Italian stuff. I was listening to, I don't know, what was it? Was it Mos Def or something?
Yeah.
And he was, I don't know, he was definitely sampling some stuff. I don't know, I got it on this, that app, Who Sampled?
Mm-hmm.
So where you can, like, catch all the tracks and stuff, so it's like Tupac, oh, he really likes the Isley Brothers. Biggie really likes the Isley Brothers. Isley Brothers. Said that weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, so like you like Alchemist on the tracks, and that's kind of where where it kind of it all came together. I was listening to that, and I mean, so what about that lyrical content though of that new violence?
Well, the lyrical content came from again, Guru. It's a very big influence on me. Very big influence on how I write my verses, how I write poetry actually too. But a lot of the core stuff that got me to writing lyrics for this project was just everything that was happening in the world. I mean, the whole concept of that new violence around what's happening, with the police shootings, the mass shootings, all that good shit. Well, that's not good. Let's be real. It's all stuff that got me really, really inspired and wanting to sort of explore what continued cycles of violence might do to the brain, like on a repeated basis. Like the Fun and Funeral, for example, is a track about like how these people who are victims of this type of violence, like your Freddie Grays or your Rakia Boyds or Mike Brown or Trayvon Martin, all these people are sort of their deaths become spectacles. They become like these big grand events because of the fact that media reports it that way.
Yeah.
So that was like so that was me thinking about like how to explore that concept fully, and then extend that concept from just that song to the entire album of exploring these cycles of violence. So that was like a big part of the inspiration for the project.
Hey,
Lewis,
Yeah.
when you conceptualize a song, are your lyrics on paper or in your mind first as you're building the beat, vice versa, or a little give and take?
It's usually I start with the beat first, because for me, when I listen to a song, when I listen to a rap song, the first thing that must catch my ear is the beat. The beat is the gateway. And if the gateway isn't there, then you end up just not caring about the lyrics. So for me, I go into making a beat without a concept in mind, and then listen to the beat and let the concept sort of play
Evolve.
itself out. Yeah, exactly.
Interesting.
So it's like for me, going into writing a track, it usually just starts with a beat, and whatever the beat makes me feel, I start writing. Or sometimes I go into a song with the concept, and then that concept will change over time the more I write, and then it becomes a different song by the time I'm finished.
That was my follow-up. Yeah, it seems
Yeah.
like you wanted to write about, as you said, a lot of the stuff going on, not so positive stuff going on in the
Yeah.
at least in the States. With that in mind, do you build, I don't want to say a somber beat, but whatever it is that you're trying to write about, do you build the beat to try to match that feel, and then just kind of, like it evolves as you're knee deep in the process, and it may become something else, or do you pretty much, typically stick with what your initial idea is and you're able to execute?
Well, that's actually a really good question because of the fact that in my brain, when I approach writing a track, it's usually not with like this set core big grand opus idea in mind. I usually listen to the beat, let it guide me in terms of how it makes me feel. And then if I build up a concept from that, I go with that concept. But most of the time, honestly, with this album, the concept ended up changing over time. The more I wrote, the more I explored these ideas, the more I started thinking about different things. Like there's a track on the album called Enrichment, and Enrichment is all about the concept of cultural appropriation. You know, the idea of people who don't belong to a certain culture taking ideas from other cultures and then passing it off as their own. And so that was like, like a sort of a track that I started out, going into it wanting to do, sort of like a more lighthearted, sort of like a sort of comedy song that would act as like an anchor midway through the album before
And it
things start
became
to get
something
really, really
serious,
heavy. Yeah, and that's actually what
or more
happened.
serious, I should say.
Yeah, that's actually exactly what happened. And even though that particular song is more sarcastic in theory, the concept became more serious as I continued to write. Um, it just got to be, thinking about a different idea, a different thought process, a different method in terms of approaching that particular song. And that's how most of the songs ended up becoming that way. I think the only song that I had a specific idea in mind and finished with that idea in mind all the way to the end was this track that is towards the end called Another Galaxy.
Mm.
Yeah.
I like
That's
that track.
fantastic stuff. Fantastic stuff.
Thank you, man. Thank you, brother. Thank you.
Pleasure's all ours, man.
Yeah. I mean, it's really a real pleasure to have you on the show. I mean, it's great. You know, let's just real talk real quick. So Lewis is not just a hip hop cat, just a really good hip hop cat, a really good Boston spoken word artist, titan really. He's a dope MC and a poet, but he's also part of Flatline, and Flatline is also a killer, poetry collective, and I don't know, do you want to speak on that a little bit? I mean, I know you guys did an event the other day. Maybe we can talk about that a little, and see. I don't know. You were at the you guys played at the Pride Festival, right?
Indeed, yeah.
And that's got to be that's got to be a weird thing to be a part of, and then have Orlando happen. But actually, I don't know.
Had the news broke before you performed, or how did that all play out?
Well, no, like we did the show during the day when the parade was happening, and it was actually later on that night that that happened, and we learned about it. The crazy thing about all of it was during our set, Kaylee, she went up on stage and talked about the fact that Pride started out as a protest.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't a parade. It was activism. It was rallies. It was people being angry. And it's kind of become something different in today's age. It's become a little bit more corporate. And they're not saying that's a bad thing. It's just that's just the way it is. It's become what it is. And Kaylee also talked about the fact that the work isn't done. It's never done as long as people don't feel equal. Then the work isn't done. And that night when that happened, that was just like a big sort of wake up call to a lot of us who fancy ourselves, artists, who fancy ourselves activists, that the work isn't done, and we got to do more. We have to do more. We have to get our message to the outside. And that's the most important thing.
Amen.
Definitely. It's just a whole terrible way to end Pride Week. For that to happen, and I don't even know if I can really talk about it, but I don't know.
We'll talk about Flatline a little bit more. We'll come back to that a little bit. We'll take into that a little bit because there's a lot to be talked about, especially you talk about cycles of violence and where that comes from, where that originates. Because while this specific one was his target was quite specific, and it deals heavily into what we were talking about with Pride Week. The idea of targeting groups and the idea of mass violence is not new, and it's horribly regular for us as Americans. So I think this is something we talked about there. But I think, before we even dig into that, let's talk a little bit about Flatline, though. We mentioned what it is. It's a hip-hop, not a hip-hop, poetry collective. How long have you guys been together and been around?
Well, I can say that we've known each other for a really long time. Like, I actually met one of our members, Lissa, when I was in high school. And then we ended up working together at this nonprofit called Mission Safe when we were in college. And it just sort of snowballed from there. So we've actually been a group. We've actually been a thing from, I think, it's been, it's almost 3 years. It'll be 2013 was when we first, decided to, explore this group thing and become that.
And that was at Wheelock College, correct?
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is, Guillermo and Lissa were students at Wheelock, and they started their own open mic on campus. And
that was called Flow, the fundamental lyricists of Wheelock, correct?
Yep, that is correct.
That was a fantastic open mic. Is that still going on?
Yeah, it is. It's actually it's transferred into another group of people who are running them now. And
That's
they're
a fantastic
awesome,
legacy.
They're awesome. And then I started an open mic at Mass Art just down the street called the Official Mass Art Poetry Alliance. And Kaylee discovered this open mic really, really randomly when she was a freshman, came to one of them and then decided to get involved, decided to, join the group. And we became really close-knit through running those open mics together. But we started collaborating. Mass Art would go to Wheelock, and Wheelock would go to Mass Art. We'd support each other's open mics. And it just got to the point where, I asked Lissa, have you ever thought about, doing this for real? And we thought about, this idea of like a collective of wanting to continue the communities that we sort of helped to build at our respective schools outside of college. And that's, where the idea of Flatline came from, was, being able to have that community, being able to have that space for us when we needed it. And since then, we added more members. Phoebo and Oompa are members of the group now, so it's 6 of us now. And yeah, it's awesome.
Oops on the track.
Why Flatline?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Ivan.
Sorry. Why Flatline? I'm just curious on the name. Where'd that
if you ask Lissa, she'll tell a completely different story from me. But the idea behind Flatline is that we have a tagline called "Build a New Heartbeat." And what that essentially means is, it's like every time we go on stage, every time we perform, we want to breathe new life into a space. We want to breathe new life into what we're performing about, into what we're writing about, Like, essentially, we want to go on stage, give everything we have on that stage, and become reborn in our poetry, in our performance, and what we do.
That's the Flatline. That's awesome. That's fantastic. Yeah, that's cool. Go ahead, Jay. My bad. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh man, I didn't know. I was gonna say Oob is on the one of the tracks, right?
Yeah. Might be my favorite verse on the album.
Dude, she kind of kills it on that album.
She does.
How do you, as a group, decide who gets to join Flatline from here on in? How has that worked with the two new members?
Well, we weren't like, hey, let's have a new member. Like, that wasn't a thing that we that we take lightly, because we see Flatline as not just a group, but as a family. We're all very close knit. we support each other during hard times. We, love each other like a family. Sometimes we fight like a family, but we're still a family. And I think that's, a big core part of, the process of who we decided to bring into the group. So Oompa, we decided to bring in because she's awesome and has been doing shit forever. And Phoebe, we decided to bring in because he's also a person who's really good at providing feedback, really good at coaching, and also, someone that we all, had, very positive vibes about, very positive feelings about. So it was just one of those things that just felt like it made too much sense to not do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? Oops on the album. I gotta shout out True Queen because she's on the album.
She's dope.
D Ruff is on the album.
Yeah.
I mean, how did you end up collaborating with all those people? Because I know all these cats from the Boston poetry scene and stuff, but how did that happen? Was it organic? How did that work out? I mean, how did you get these guys on the tracks with you?
I can actually answer that in part. Is the flow reading that I was telling you about actually had a lot of people all around the Boston area, and D Ruff was there. I imagine you guys met during the flow readings.
That is partly true. Another element of that is D Ruff, along with Jadi, runs an open mic. One of my favorite open mics in the city called "If You Can Feel It, You Can Speak It." Right? It's so good. And so I became very well acquainted with D Ruff through that open mic and through Lissa, because Lissa would frequent that open mic a lot during when Flatline started. So D Ruff was one of those people that I always wanted to collaborate with. Because I knew he could spit, I knew he was an MC, and I also had in mind for this particular project, from the beginning when I started working on it, I said, okay, I want to do more collaborations this time. I want more songs on there where it's not just me. And I felt like that was really important because, there's a lot of voices that can be added to these conversations that aren't being added to them. In hip hop, there's hip hop has a really, piss poor reputation when it comes to, women, when it comes to, LGBTQ identifying people. So it felt really important to me to give some people who are queer identifying a platform, and that's the reason why I brought in Oompa, the reason why I brought in Queen to be part of the album, because I feel like it was really important to have different viewpoints that weren't just mine. In regards to the subject, because I think a lot of these things, they intersect, and it's important to get those type of perspectives. And plus they're dope, so that helps too.
I mean, I worked with Queen before. She worked with us. Well, not worked. I mean, I had a book release for Letter to the World, and she was at it. We rocked the More Than Words with Mars Jupiter. It was a dope set.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Hey, Louis, first of all, where can we get your stuff? Because I'm waiting for my copy. I'm hoping I can get it Saturday.
Yeah, I'm gonna do a bunch of shipping this week. I'm backlogged on shipping just because everything just went crazy last week. We're having to prepare for Pride and all that. But yeah, you can find my album on Bandcamp. It's available at louism.bandcamp.com. There's the digital version. There's a single disc version, and there's a double disc version that happens to have instrumentals on the second disc. So that's
I'm not into that shit.
You gotta pick up that new balance. You gotta. I mean, the production quality on that alone, man. I mean, not to mention the insightful hip hop lyrics and awesome collaborations with some of Boston's best poets and artists. I mean, just the production on it's fucking incredible, dude. You did a really, amazing job on the production. I got to give you props for that, for real.
Oh, thank you, man. Thank you.
I mean, definitely. You gotta. I mean, if you're not, I mean, you gotta check out Louis M's That New Violence. Get it at Bandcamp. I wish you could get it more places because this thing needs to be heard by the whole fucking world because it is that good. And I'm not bullshitting. It's a really good album. I mean, for any hip hop head who likes hip hop, this is good. This is real good. I don't know. I'm gonna play another track. You guys mind if I play one more track?
All right. Well, here let's hold off on that in a second. Let's come back. Let's do that in a minute. Let's use the spot here as a what's going on. We do a little what's going on with JP Lime and Oddball. We usually say that to the end. Let's use that. Let's do that now. Then we'll come back around. We'll do a little discussion that we were talking about, some of those deeper issues we were just talking about, and then you can play us out. We can play another track at the end.
Yeah.
Sound good?
Sounds good, man. Sounds good.
All right, so yeah, let's jump into what's going on this week at JP Lime and Oddball Magazine. The Oddball Show is a podcasting collaboration between the two entities before you tonight. So every week try to update you on what's going on at our respective sites. Jay, you want to go first? Chad, you want to go first? You want me to? I'll go first.
Go ahead, Prof.
Over at jplineproductions.com this week, we've got a series of Scholars rap flashback posts going on. We got a little insight into Schoolie D coming up. And Scholar, you want to talk about the ones that just dropped this week? Or I can do it too.
I mean, we got Heavy D's Big Time, Heavy D and the Boys Big Time, their second studio album. We Got Our Own Thing is the standout track, at least for me, on that album. I always get a little bit nostalgic when we talk about Heavy D or when I think about Heavy D because I feel as though when he passed a few years ago, Gemini, by the way, it's Gemini season. Go Heavy. I'm a Gemini myself. Got to plug my Geminis. I always feel like when Heavy D died, hip-hop lost a part of its innocence throughout the throughout the gangster rap era and then the jiggy rap era that followed it, and then the 50s and the M's and and everything that's going on today. Like one thing Heavy D was always great about was keeping his music relatively positive. He dabbled in street every now and then, but it was relatively positive. His biggest hits are all a lot of his biggest hits, I should say, they're fun. They're dance oriented, which was awesome seeing this like big dude who could rap his balls off, also sitting there like doing the Running Man, doing all the steps that you would expect like somebody like a Big Daddy Kane or even like a Bobby Brown to do. So I was really it really hit me when he passed away a few years ago. And like I said, I just feel as though hip hop lost some of its innocence when he passed. So that was definitely part of my post there. And Schoolie D coming up. Speaking of gangster rap, Schoolie D, best known for the song PSK, Park Street Killers, which Biggie famously used on his Life After Death album. PSK, what does that mean? People always ask, what the hell does that mean? P is for the et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Often regarded the first or one of the early gangster rappers. Ice-T is quoted as saying, PSK, Schoolie D was one of the reasons that he started doing what he started doing out in the West Coast, and it gave him the confidence and, kind of like the platform, or the blueprint, I should say, to kind of go that route. So, say what you will about, reality rap, gangster rap, whatever, however you feel about it. It's definitely an important imprint in hip-hop history till this day. And Schoolie D, a lot of people credit, a lot of hip-hop historians credit Schoolie D with, one of the pioneers of that. So that's what's going on in the rap flashback world. Are we on to Oddball?
Well, I'm going to drop a piece tomorrow, either tomorrow or Thursday, about some of the political stuff going on in the last couple of days, including, obviously, the tragedy in Orlando. But I don't know. We don't need to talk much about that. So I'm going to drop something else. But that's what's going on at jpnineproductions.com. Let's jump on over to Oddball Magazine.
We have a lot of stuff going on. Sorry for the late delay. I had a little problem with the machine. I hate saying that because it seems to be as common in Google Hangouts as hello. But we have some amazing stuff this week. We had Bruce Wise actually write a poem hours after the tragedy in Florida. We were able to have that be our first response of the week. We've had an array of good poets already with, of course, Jason's Jagged Thought and Colin James. I'm really excited about our poems for tomorrow. The poets are Olivia Van Wode, Woude, and then Michael Chin. I won't tell you what they're about, but I'm particularly happy with Michael Chin's. It's in the wake of what happened this weekend and kind of my disgust over some of the reactions of people. I don't even mean just Trump. Chin's poem comes as like it's very refreshing and kind of like by happy coincidence, in a way, a very quiet reaction piece to what happened. Very subtle, but I was very happy with it, and it has great artwork by Cesar Valtierra, Valtierra, who has become kind of an oddball superstar and a go-to person for a very quick turnaround for illustration. So I gotta give Cesar a shout out as well. Also, we're gonna have next couple of days, Andrew Bourne 7 Times. It's All One Thing with James Van Loy, The Underground Garden with Liza Davis, and so much more.
We also premiered a brand new column this week.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. What do you think? Shout out to Just Enough and Steve Warren. Just Enough has been on the Oddball Show before.
Yep.
Remember him? Yeah, he's great. Just Enough is on the. He's on now. He's part of Oddball. His column is every other week now. Yeah, it's really cool. You gotta check it out. It's like conceptualized art, music. It's like a 20-minute video that he does. He shoots it at CCTV. It's broadcasted to Cambridge. Now it's broadcasted through online on Oddball magazine. So check it out. It is what do you think with Justin Up Warren? Go shit.
And that's what's going on this week at Oddball Magazine and JP Line Productions. Find them at oddballmagazine.com and jplineproductions.com, your headquarters for the two entities that make up the Oddball Show.
Also, Prof, one more thing we can do, you guys can do, is go to our Facebook page and like the Oddball Show. Sign up for us. We're on iTunes now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can go to our Facebook page, like us, share us, let people know that we're a dope ass podcast, and yeah, like what we're doing. That's what else is up? Yeah.
So we are kind of coming down to the hour here at the Oddball Show, as it tends to happen. Things fly by as we get talking about fun shit. We have 10 minutes left, but I got a couple questions about cultural aspects to the Orlando tragedy, but I think maybe we jump into that for a question or two, and then maybe do back-to-back performances, do Jagged Thought and track to close this out. Sound good?
Yeah, I like that idea. We'll do my JT, and then we'll end the show with I'm Your Enemy. That's not the song. I want to play that song.
All right, so let me throw this question to the group, and we'll start with Lewis on the answering end, because some of what you're talking about on that new violence is cycles of violence, and how some of this isn't new. It's how we look at it, and what we ignore and what we have ignored that makes this look new. With something like this, the target is so specific that in some ways it's easy to say what it is that drove him. But culturally for us, what is it that we need to change? Gun regulation to me isn't just the thing. It would help. There are certain steps that can certainly be taken with gun regulation, but it's a cultural thing to me. And I've been thinking about a lot today. It's a cultural shift that needs to happen. Can it happen? And what kind of change needs to happen?
That's a very good question. It's a very big question, because I think obviously the gun shit I think needs to happen, but I don't want to make this into a gun issue, because of the fact that a gun issue is a politicized issue, and it's an issue that is a lot of people have a lot of feelings about. Me personally, I don't think it's asking too much to have a couple of regulations to make sure people can't easily get assault rifles, but that's neither here nor there. I think it's a matter of being willing to admit the obvious, right? Like the news outlets recently, in the wake of this in the wake of what happened, have been spinning this as, like they've been running with, he's terrorism, he's Muslim, he pledged to ISIS, all this shit. Whereas they are not willing to admit that this is a homophobic attack. This guy targeted a gay nightclub, and that's something that people aren't talking about. That's something that people aren't mentioning.
I
All that
totally
much.
agree with you. I couldn't agree more, and I think that's the part that disgusts me the most about this. I listen to a lot of, YouTube Z-list celebrities who are like these crazy, commentators. They'll comment against feminism, social justice, and whatnot with a variety of sanity. And the ones over past attacks like the Charlie Hebdo shootings and even the recent attacks in San Diego and France, they were very quick to go and say, this is why Islam is bad, this is why we have to do this, and all these whack jobs have shut the fuck up in light of what happened this weekend. And it seems like the underlying reason is probably the fact that these aren't victims to them that matter. And that kind of, not that I'm actually calling out for them to be like, how come you're not doing your racist? This is a war against Muslims, this is a war against Islam. I'm not asking for them to do that, but, you think if they were a little bit consistent, they would at least put something out there for the commentary, somehow comment on what just happened this weekend. And so far, nothing. And I think their silence speaks volumes. It also says something that the only one who's, quote, brave enough to speak out in his mind of this, crazy white ring fraction is Donald Trump, and which makes me even more scared for the future. But I do want to thank you, Louis, for bringing that up, because I think that's something that no one is talking about to a large extent, and I wish more people were calling that aspect out.
Yeah, the targeted attack, plain and simple.
Yeah, and I also think that a big thing that's been bothering me about the reporting of this is the focus on the fact that Homeboy was Muslim, and not the fact that it's of the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of mass shootings that have happened in recent history. This is only the third that's been done by someone who's Muslim, but they're trying to spin it as if this is like some sort of epidemic that needs to be stopped, ban the Muslims and all that. It's ignoring one marginalized group to attack a different marginalized group, and it's sickening. You have people who don't feel safe. You have a lot of my friends who are queer who don't feel safe walking down the street because they're afraid someone might attack them. They are letting people know through the reporting of this that they don't matter, and that their points of view don't matter, and that their safety doesn't matter, and that's sickening to me.
And that's a crime to spread. It's a crime and a travesty to spread fear for people who were celebrating being afraid and coming out and having no longer fear. And it's just a terrible, terrible tragedy.
Mm-hmm.
Cowardice, and it makes me so mad because it was a targeted attack for people who were proud of who they were and were celebrating who they were, and they were gunned down for being who they were. And that is so messed up to me. And it's no amount of gun regulations, it's just a pure hate crime. And it's just really sad. It's a sad day in America. It's a sad day all over the world. I could tell people on the everywhere were affected by it. I could just tell, talking to people the day of, just being nicer to people, because it's just such a sad thing to happen to an overall peaceful celebration of being who you are, and someone just negating that by just massacring a whole bunch of people. It's
Can I say something?
fucking terrible. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I keep coming back to deal with this is that, I believe that the vast majority of people in this world are good people. And, we're talking about, a particular group of people not feeling safe, the LGBT community not feeling safe. I believe it was Latin night at that club, at Pope's.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Yeah, which is another, just this whole other aspect, angle and layer that's completely gone unignored. But I've spoken to some family members, and they're just like, I don't feel safe. They're not of the LGBT community. They completely respect for everybody and everybody, but it's just like it transcends just those that group that was targeted. It's one of those things where it can have a ripple effect where a lot of people of all walks of life in America, really all over the world, are going to feel safe, are going to feel unsafe because of this, mass shooting, quote unquote, culture. And and I reply with, listen, you can't, and it sounds trite, it sounds formulaic, but the second we give in to that fear and we start adjusting our lives so as to not live it as we want to live it because we're afraid of the potential for a mass shooting, then we've already lost. We've already been defeated. So it's just one of those things where as unfortunate as it is and as heinous and disgusting as it is, I believe it is a hate crime and I believe it is terrorism. I don't see why the two are mutually exclusive. I think I think thinking along those lines, it's also dangerous. But as terrible as it is, it's just one of those things where we can't allow ourselves to, to buy into that fear because, again, then we've already lost. I mean, something bad can happen to you at any moment in time. What will be will be. And, from a as far as like a preventative standpoint, and I don't want to politicize the podcast or the argument, but I agree with you, Lewis. I think it does come down to gun control. I think it does come down to not only making it harder for people who probably shouldn't have guns. When you talk about mental illness, criminal history, being on an FBI watch list, making it harder for those people to not attain not just assault rifles but guns. Period. Legislation, and hopefully with that a changing of as you were talking about, Prof, the culture. It's like I think part of the reason that this shit keeps on happening is because the extremist minds out there feel as though shit, I can get myself some guns and really leave my mark. And that's part of the culture that we live in, because I don't want to say we live in a gun culture, but we definitely live in a culture where this shit isn't an anomaly anymore.
It's not an anomaly, and it's not like it's demonized. We
exactly
glorify and we look at our American character is what keeps striking me in this kind of situation, and it's not I got to imagine that an extremist mind finds us a proper breeding ground for
exactly.
I don't know what it is that we have to change about who we are in order for for a tragedy like this to affect us enough to want to change something. In order to make a change of any kind, whether in this case it's about LGBT rights, that we really take a good hard look at how we actually defend people who don't feel safe, or whatever it is that we learn. How do we actually learn something rather than just letting this be another one? So I don't know. I really don't. We're coming down to the end of the hour here. I hate to cut us off. It wasn't like a happy note, but there wasn't really a happy ending to that. Let's do. You got a jagged thought on tap there, Mr. Jason? We'll do that first, and then we'll do.
Okay, yeah, I have a jagged thought that I wrote. I wrote all my feelings on earlier. I wrote this one about coffee. I wanted to lighten it. So the poem I wrote today was about coffee.
A unifying subject, if ever there was one.
I think so. I think I wrote.
Unless when you get into free trade. All right, go on.
All right.
D, black coffee, no sugar, no cream.
All right. We're gonna send it off. After this with Lewis's We are enemies from that new violence, but just kind of want to light it up with this this poem. It's called Jagged Thought number 128, Quality Poetry. My eyes are open, sort of. The sun shining reminds me I'm alive, kicking in. I am yawning a lion's grin. I slept in. Let me get a little caffeine and let's let the story begin. First sip, not bad. My eyes open a bit. Think about what I have to do today. Cancel them all. Let's go surf on the waves. Second sip, here's a ding in the distance. It's my alarm ringing, alerting me to something. No big deal. I'm sure it's fine. Third sip of coffee, 8:45. Third sip, and I think to myself, coffee and cigarettes. I've been smoke-free for nearly 2 weeks. Good for me. Fourth sip, getting into a routine. Fingers slash the keyboard. No more nicotine, but still more caffeine. So much caffeine that my eyes bleed. The life of a writer is the only life for me. Fifth sip, I'm pretty awake. Going to the beach today. It's going to be good. I promised it would. Enough of the backlash. Let's go get a sunbath. My wife is waiting on me to get some breakfast. She's reading me the weather. 76 today, breezy and pleasant. I've been waiting for this day. Could it get any better? Sixth and seventh sip, I'm pretty sure I'm on full alert. Running this shit like dinner and dessert. Walking a hot dog wearing a hamburger shirt. Yeah, I'm on top of this game. It don't even hurt a bit to be so legit with the bic that I can put down rhymes like this and can keep it going on, and you don't stop drinking up coffee from the coffee pot. Eighth sip, I'm in full gear, working the angles like a carpenter, like a news ledger. I'm on the letter. Ninth sip, I gotta get going. The grass needs mowing. The cows are mooing. The waves are crashing. The angels are dancing. I feel good. 10th sip, to freedom. I borrowed that from the band Sublime because today is a good day to rhyme on time. I would say 40 ounces of freedom, but my coffee's in a pint glass, so chill on that for a second. Let me ask the rest of the class. Dear Poetry 101, is it okay to stretch the truth in a lyrical run? Would it be an homage or an ode if I say what's up to Bradley Noel in a poem, even though he passed on so long ago? Hey, poetry class, is this a poem to you? I mean, it started having meter but went off the rails. Do you think that I'm writing this with or without caffeine? Yeah, class, the caffeine in me writes quality poetry. Quality poetry.
Yeah!
And that was Jagged Thought 128. Quality poetry. Thank you very much. And I just want to thank, it's been a great discussion. I want to thank Chad, Ivan, and Prof for being on the show today. I want to thank you, Lewis. Scholar. Man, change your thing.
What?
I'm using this government. Sorry. The man is Scholar, Prof, Lewis M. Thank you all for being on the show today, Lewis.
Thank you for having me, man.
And catch that new violence. We're gonna send you off with this last track. It's actually the first track of the album. It's called "We Are Enemies," and we are out. And it should be playing. Hold on. There we go. There it is. Goodbye, everybody. This has been the Oddball Podcast.
And now we're pleased to bring you our feature presentation.
Hardly surprised by shit anymore. Every day like it's just another fat scroll. And someone's got to look if it's you, the floor is yours. That it's way down, you need to watch your soul fall from your body. The purgatory, heaven's another story. There ain't no room for niggas. Look at you, trigger fingers, go have a puffer with the hippie next to mine. Keep friends as a reference to stimuli supply. Now some lines are like more than others. Respect, I'm like fire. My soul can't be cameras across like a road and skyline. Let's feel the burn up my neck, so I call up my mother and tell her that I love her, and I don't say it. I love these movements. Everything hopeless, my spirit's imploding. Yet I'm supposed to crack a smile. Keep my delusion game. Nigga, turn up to the whole village burn up. Because I am an avalanche of your perception. It's cool, but I like to all your destruction. In the way of trying to run, we are enemies. With bullshit, we are enemies. I am an avalanche of your perception. It's cool, but I like to all your destruction. In the way of trying to run, we are enemies. That's bullshit. We are enemies. Ain't one corpse. Rose to a fault. I was born in the gallows. Raised in your crosshairs. And I got used to be the city toward the practice. Black and brown babies. Taught to be aimed in order to pursue goals. More than they peruse through our history. And find blood and chains. The names that were given up a claim. Identities that stay my first love. But a pistol aimed at one blink. A short outline halo. Let's talk for my own like the holy crown of eagles. Loyalty to no one. This will language to the G's. There will never be a curse for a death from our symbol. It's the only thing that cares in our history. Niggas, we are not expected to survive in America. We are not accepted as allies, so let's clear it up. Born in the gallows, what you call through the surface, cause the crosshairs are worthless. I am an avalanche of every perception. It's cool for other breaks, so all don't get deception. In the way of trying to run, we are enemies. With that bullshit, we are enemies. I am an avalanche of every perception. It's cool, no other breaks, so all don't get deception. In the way of trying to run, we are enemies. With that bullshit, we are enemies. In the beginning,